Hello 3D printing friends. Today on the BV 3D channel I'll show you what I consider some must-have tools for FDM 3D printing. Stick around and we'll get into it right after this. I'm Brian and you are watching BV 3D. This episode of the BV 3D channel is brought to you in part by these awesome channel members. Becoming a member is a great way to support the channel and has a few perks besides just getting your name in lights here. Click the join button to find out more. Hi, welcome back. Hey, if you're new here and you're wanting to learn about 3D printing, 3D modeling, and other 3D printing related stuff, start now by subscribing and clicking the bell so you don't miss anything. Okay, so today we're going to take a look at 5 must-have tools for 3D printing. What? 8? Oh, okay, we talked about it, but I thought, okay, 8 it is. Today we're going to take a look at 8 must-have tools for 3D printing. Sometimes people are curious about the tools I use, and these are all things that I like and use on a regular basis, so I thought I'd share that info. There are links for most, if not all, of these items in the description, so here we go. First on the list are ball-end hex drivers. Pretty much every 3D printer that requires assembly includes the basic tools to put it together, and that includes metric hex keys, or Allen wrenches, or Allen keys, or hex wrenches. No matter what you call them, these are used to drive the hex socket screws that, like the Force, bind the universe, or at least your printer, together. But the ones that come with most 3D printers these days have flat ends on them, which means the tool has to be more or less perfectly aligned with the hex socket to be able to drive it. Sometimes, though, it would be nice to be able to drive the screw with the tool a little bit off angle. And that's where ball-end hex drivers come in. Some printers do come with upgraded Allen keys that have ball ends, but a lot don't. If yours doesn't, you might want to get a set like this. This is the Wera Craftform Micro Ballhead Kit. It's a metric set, and it's got 6 drivers ranging from 3 millimeters down to 0.9 millimeters, and it comes with a nice stand for them too. But the Weras are pricey, so if you're on a budget, you can get this Eklund set. It's also a 6-piece kit with sizes from 4 millimeters to 1.3 millimeters. For most maintenance tasks, these drivers are great, though the set that came with the printer has its place too. For example, neither of these sets comes with a driver big enough for the big M5 bolts that hold the Z gantry to the base of the printer. So for those, you'll need to use the set that comes with the printer. Now sometimes you need to use supports when you're printing a model, and sometimes those can be a pain to remove. But you can make that task a little easier with needle nose pliers. I use this Exolite one that I got several years ago, but even an inexpensive needle nose pliers will help you reach in and grab those supports to pull them out when needed. These are also great for holding parts when you're working on a printer. You can pick one up for just a few bucks, like this one from Edwards Tools. And Amazon's even got the set I have, which includes flush cutters. And in fact, that's our third tool, flush cutters. Like needle nose pliers, they're also useful for getting supports off a print. A good number of 3D printers will already come with these, and if yours did, that's great. You don't need to buy another pair. But if yours didn't, you'll want to pick up a pair. Why? Because they're perfect for cutting a point on the end of your filament to make it easier to load into the printer. And they're great for trimming areas where supports may still be stuck to a print. These are in the $2 range. Next on the list, digital calipers. These are handy for confirming that your printer is able to print dimensionally accurate parts, but they're also invaluable for taking measurements of things you want to model in CAD software. Need to know how thick one part is when you're having to design something to hold it? Measure it with the calipers. Need to know how wide an opening is when you're designing something that needs to fit into it? Measure it with the calipers. My go-to calipers are the 8-inch Naiko model with the stainless steel jaws. Now that set me back a little over 40 bucks, but there's a 6-inch model for less. The things I appreciate most about the Naiko is that it has a set screw so I can lock the calipers at any position, and it has a fine adjustment wheel so I can make small, precise movements with the jaws. Like most of the battery-operated digital calipers, these turn on when you start moving them and turn off after a couple of minutes of inactivity. I've used other cheaper brands of calipers that are more plasticky and they lack the fine adjustment wheel and the set screw. And some of them slide so loosely on their rulers that even the slightest motion will power them on. If you get cheaper digital calipers and they do that, it could be fun to design and print a clip to keep the jaws closed when they're not in use. But I've had this Naiko one for 5 years and it's never let me down. And now it's time for the next tool, which is a needle file set. These are great for smoothing small parts, enlarging holes, or shrinking pegs to get parts to fit together, and other similar tasks. Sometimes a printed part just needs a slight adjustment to get it to fit where it's supposed to, and a set of small files like this can really help. I use them for rounding over sharp edges on prints too. The set I've got is one I've had forever. I think it came from a Radio Shack a long time ago, back when they were either A, still around, or B, not hawking crypto or NFTs or whatever the person is doing who bought the brand name after the company that bought the brand name when Radio Shack went bankrupt. But I digress. This mini needle file set looks better than my old set. It has 6 files and has better handles too. Now it's time for the next tool. Behold, the humble glue stick. Glue stick has a couple of different uses in 3D printing. First, it can help promote bed adhesion so your printed model stays stuck to the bed during the printing process. And second, it can help unpromote bed adhesion by acting as an interface layer between the print bed and the model. You might think it's weird to want a print to not stick to the bed, but that second thing can be really important. Why? Because some filaments stick way too well to the print surface. And when that happens, the model can be almost impossible to remove without damaging it, or without damaging the print surface. So, cheap glue stick to the rescue. Whether using it to get filament to stick to the print bed or keep it from sticking too well, a thin layer is all you need. The glue stick sticks to the bed and the filament sticks to the glue stick. And the great thing about it is that it's water soluble, so if you end up with too much of it on the bed, you can clean it off with plain water. You can use a cheap dollar store glue stick or a name brand glue stick. It's all pretty much the same in my experience. Next up, this, a small LED flashlight. This will brighten your day and makes it easy to see what's happening down at the nozzle when you're printing. Is the filament sticking? Did part of the model curl up? What's making that noise every time the nozzle goes over a certain part of the print? Well, let your light shine down and you'll see what's up. You can get fancy, compact LED flashlights on Amazon, and I put a link to a not super expensive 2-pack in the description. But honestly, you can probably get a 3 or more pack of cheap LED flashlights at your local dollar store for about the same amount. Now it's time for the last tool on the list, tweezers. These are one of those things that really should come with a 3D printer, but don't. They're super handy for grabbing nozzle boogers right before a print starts. Now those are the little blobs or bits of filament that ooze out of and stick to the nozzle. I usually grab them when the nozzle's hot and it's getting a little drippy. They're also good for picking up filament bits that sometimes end up in the nooks and crannies of the printer's frame, and for grabbing screws that have fallen into the printer when you're working on it. This particular set on the screen now is about the least expensive collection of them I've seen, and they're good stainless steel ones. Okay, so those are some of the tools that I use on a regular basis. But what about you? Comment with the tools that you use with your 3D printers. I'm interested to see what you're using. Well, 3D printing friends, that's about all the time we have for this episode. And now that we're at the end, let's go print something cool. Hey, real quick before you go, I wanted to say thanks for being one of the super awesome people who sticks around all the way to the end, and thanks for all the likes, comments, and shares. And an especially big thanks to those who directly support what I do. You're all wonderful for doing that, and I really appreciate it. If you liked this episode, a thumbs up would be great, and if you'd like to help support the channel, check the description for ways you can do exactly that. And hey, if you haven't already subscribed, please do. It's absolutely free, and it's an excellent way to help keep me making these videos for you. Well, that's it for this one. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time here on the BV3D channel.